How's it going, everybody, and welcome to episode 268 of Master My Garden podcast. Now, this week's episode, we're looking at the subject of summer colour and what we can do now to ensure that we have lots of summer colour in the coming weeks, and there is lots we can be doing now. And I suppose over the last few weeks, we've been here in Ireland, we've been very pleasantly surprised with a really nice dry spell. It has been quite cold, but nonetheless, we've had dry weather, almost no rain in around a month now, and that has meant that the ground has dried up quite a lot. As I say, we don't have a huge amount of growth yet because it's still quite cold, but at the same time, it has been possible to get a huge amount of work done. And conditions have been nice and dry for people who are out and about in their gardens, and that has certainly been a really welcome boost. Getting a little bit of warmer weather this week now, so I'm expecting kind of growth levels to pick up and everything to really start to kick off. But yeah, in general, it's been a beautiful few weeks, and to see sunshine, which is something we hadn't seen a whole lot of, to see sunshine of late has been really nice and welcome. Still quite early, in terms of seedlings and stuff like that, so they're still going to need a lot of watching and protecting because we're still in March of many weathers, and sometimes April can be something similar. So we just have to keep an eye on it, and fingers crossed it continues in the vein that it is at the moment. We're getting this nice sunny weather and hoping for a little bit more warmth coming up. But in terms of summer color, uh, you know, it's it's obviously the time of the year when it's possible to have the most vibrant colors, from summertime right through into autumn time. And that's typically, it can be from your your perennials, your annuals, and things like bulbs. And that's what we're going to kind of focus on. What plants, what bulbs, what seeds can we be getting now that's going to kind of ensure this, I suppose, avalanche of summer color as the year goes on. And we speak about bulbs quite a lot, particularly in the autumn time, because that's the time of the year. The autumn planting season is kind of a bigger season in terms of bulbs. You have all your ones that are flowering now, basically everything from snowdrops to crocuses to daffodils, and so on and so on. And that's in terms of availability of the range. There's a lot more sort of varieties available at that stage, but there's still some really good ones in the springs, and spring flowering bulbs are they give huge impact, albeit that there's a smaller array of variety out there. So what are we looking at in terms of, we're going to look at bulbs first, and then we'll look at seeds maybe, and then we'll look at other things, bare roots and plants and so on. So initially, what the main ones that we're talking about, you're looking at dahlias, you're looking at lilies, gladioli, peonies, crocosmias, neriens, freesias, and that sort of thing. And they're your bulbs that you can buy at the moment, and these are going to be basically, they're a bulb in a bag. For anyone that hasn't grown like this before, they're a bulb in a bag. You plant them when temperatures are warm enough, which could be in a couple of weeks' time. But in the meantime, you can, if you have a greenhouse, you can get them potted up there or put them into an area where they can be protected. You're looking for kind of ground temperatures, a little bit like sowing potatoes. You're looking for ground temperatures to be up 10, 12 degrees consistently, and you're not looking for too much frost. And then they'll kick into life essentially, and they'll grow on and flower this summer. And they really are a phenomenal, easy way of having flower over a long period of time. A really cost effective way as well of flowering up over a long period. So to look at these kind of bulbs first, dahlias, there is thousands of varieties from what I believe. There's approximately 2,000 varieties of dahlias have been named, and they're a phenomenal source of summer color. And when you go to your garden centers at the moment, or your nurseries at the moment, you will see dahlia bulbs. Essentially, there's different types of dahlia bulbs as well. There's 7 or 8 different types of them. And within that, then you'll have a kind of a style of flower or a style of growth. So there's There's Asiatic bulbs. There's dinner plate ones. Dinner plates are really interesting. So they're essentially, as the name suggests, they're a dinner plate size head on them. So really huge flower. Some really nice ones there. Something like Thomas Edison is a really nice one. It's huge flower. So up to sort of 9 or 10 inches in width, which is what's that, 22 centimeters in width of a flower head. So huge flowers and really nice for for bouquets and so on. That's so dinner plate is a really good one. Then you have obviously pom pom ones. Don't particularly like them. I think they're a little bit uh, sort of fussy looking. Like the more natural, like the more open ones. The traditional ones like Bishop's Children, Bishop of Landorf. I like all of those type of traditional ones. Just prefer the flower on them. But there is some fantastic ones. And last year at one of the garden fairs, I can't remember which one it was now, but I bought some bulbs at that, uh, or dahlia tubers, should I say, at that, and got the cafe au lait and a pink version of it. So they were beautiful, really good. Now the pink version was a phenomenal flower. Again, I can't remember exactly the variety, but it was a pink version of the cafe au lait, and it was an interesting one actually in the summertime because the flower was phenomenal on it. It was just so vibrant, flowered for a long period of time, was really vigorous, lots of flower on them, were perfect for taking in and putting into a vase. So for cut flowers, they were brilliant. But it was an interesting one because wasps actually there was some kind of a sap coming off the stem of them, and the wasps really went mad for it. So during the height of the summer, there was 20, 30 wasps all around the stem of it sucking on the sap, obviously, I think. And it was just phenomenal to see, but they never bothered much with anything else in the area, but whatever it was really attracting in the wasps there. But they didn't cause any issues. It was around the patio. They didn't cause any issues there. They just seemed to be so content, just taking in the sap or whatever it was they were doing from this particular dahlia. So those dahlias I left in the ground. It was their first year being planted. I kind of mulched them heavily. So fingers crossed once the weather starts to improve or the temperatures start to improve, that we'll see them peeping up again, hoping to get another great display. And then next autumn, I will dig them and sort of try and multiply the plants a little bit. But dahlias, as I said, over 2,000 varieties available. It's absolutely endless. And then the various different types. So dinner plate, as I say, they're typically really big ones. And then for me, I like the traditional ones. And they can be grown for the likes of, Bishop's Children or Bishop Landolph, any of those. They can be grown from seed now quite easily as well. So once you start getting into late March, early April, still loads of time to sow them from seed, and you will have flower this year. That's the beauty of those at this stage. Now it'll be late summer into autumn when you get that flower, but it will be fantastic. And then once you have them produced, you can, as I say, you can dig up the tubers, and you can multiply your plants over time. So like the autumn planting bulbs, bulbs at this stage of the year are a great investment and give great, I suppose, return for your spend. The other kind of big category of bulbs at this stage is lilies. And again, you have 7 or 8 different types of lilies. There's the trumpet lilies, there's the tree lilies, and all of that. But in general, it's the trumpet ones that are kind of the traditional type. And again, they're the ones that I particularly like. There's oriental ones which have, sort of more pointier flowers on them. I don't overly love those. But any of the lilies, again, they're going to be hardy. And again, they're going to give you flower over a long period of time. They're going to last for years and years and years. And they really are, again, give a great show over a period of time. And you will, over time, the clump, particularly of the trumpet lilies, the clumps do get bigger, and you'll be able to separate out some of those as well. So that's lilies. Another one is gladioli. These are a bit of a funny one because they're seen to be a little bit old-fashioned. but they're still actually quite a good. They're a very good flower actually. They're very much suited to being in a border and to be peeping up through other plants. They're not so good, standing on their own because they're a little bit the the stems and that the lower part of the plant is very stalky looking as opposed to, if it's in the middle of a border, it can peep up and you get this flower above a kind of canopy of growth, and it's a little bit nicer that way. So they're suited to being in the cottage style, heavier type planting as opposed to being sort of standing on their own. But they are old fashioned. You would admit that, but they're definitely a really nice flower and they do last. And in that setting where they're within a bed, within a border, and peeping through, they give great, great flower. And again, they will grow absolutely anywhere. They're really easy to grow. And yeah, maybe a little bit old-fashioned, but I still think there's a great place for them, and you won't be disappointed in that setting where you have them among other plants. Particularly, peeping through along with roses, along with grasses, that kind of cottage style planting, they can look really, really well at this time of year. Then we're looking at peonies. So peonies are a brilliant one to get at this time of the year. So you'll get them either kind of as a bare root plant, or and that it really is a brilliant time to get them because peony plants now, they're to get a good sized peony plant, any of the nice varieties like Sarah Bernat or any of those, they're going to be really nice. And a good sized plant is going to probably cost you anything from 15 to 25 euro, 30 euro thereabouts. And you'll get the same sort of uh, bare root plant or tuber at this stage of the year, and it'll be maybe anything from 4 to 7 or 8 euro, depending on the size of it. But it's a brilliant, brilliant way of getting a really, really nice plant, getting it established, and getting flower pretty much straight away with it. So that's another good one at this stage of the year. Again, there's lots of different varieties, lots of different types as well. But peonies is another good and easy one to grow at this time of the year. Next one is a bit like the gladioli. Some people love it, some hate it, some people call it a weed. But Crocosmia definitely has a big impact, particularly over time. It will spread, and I think this is why people kind of call it a weed. If it gets neglected, it will start to take over, start to spread. But if you're able to keep splitting it, keep taking some of it away, and just keep it in check, I guess. It doesn't necessarily take over, but you can get some great color from it. The likes of the Crocosmia lucifer, really bright, vibrant red. Hardy will grow pretty much anywhere as well. Again, more of a border plant, so the bottom half of the plant is quite underwhelming, to be honest. It's just, green, kind of stalky growth again. But up top, you get these really nice red, vibrant flowers. And again, if they're above a canopy of foliage, they can look really, really well. So they have their place sort of mid border. That's kind of their place. And yeah, Crocosmias, there's lovely orange ones as well. I can't think of variety now, but there's some beautiful, really deep orange ones that again will look well in most borders. So you'll get different colors in them, and they're a fantastic plant. Another one which is again would be seen as sort of cottage style, older style planting, but again really really good solid performer is Neriens. Slightly underrated, I think, as a plant. So Neriens are really really hardy, come back every year, multiply, flower pretty much without fail, and yeah, they're just a nice flower, and again they suit that cottage style planting. So there's kind of four or five that you'll get at the moment from kind of bulbs or corms or tubers, whatever you want to call them. You have dahlias, you have lilies, you have gladioli, you have peonies, you have crocosmia and Neriens. Don't forget for dahlias, you can grow quite well from seeds as well at this stage of the year. So that's another big possibility. And the other thing that you'll see more so you'll see it in some of the bigger garden centers, and you'll see it with the online bulb sellers. You can get a huge amount of perennials as sort of bare root plants at this stage of the year. And I've used this before. Again, in terms of value for money, they're superb value for money versus going out and buying a big plant in a 3 liter pot or whatever. They're superb value, and essentially what you're going to get here is pretty much any perennial plant that you can think of. So it's everything from the last ones that I got were stilbees. There was a certain variety that I was looking for. Couldn't find seed, couldn't find plants, but then found them on, forget which one of the online bulb people had them as a sort of bare root plant, and they were starting to sprout. So it was around this time last year, or the year before, they were starting to sprout, and then just really really good plants from them pretty much straight away. So you get them into the ground, make sure you give them good watering at the start, a little bit of seaweed to get them established, and they'll just really kick off and give great return in year one, and then obviously going forward year after year. So stilbees is a great one. You can also get pretty much, as I said, pretty much any of the perennials you can buy like this at this time of the year. So agapanthus, thing with agapanthus is they can be very slow, so you'll buy them and they will just take a little bit longer than say the stilbees or whatever. Agelias, agastasias, dahlias we mentioned, pretty much any echinaceas, any of the perennials that you would sow. And again, we would have spoken about sowing seeds in the autumn time, which is the best time to sow perennial seeds. But if you haven't done that, you can get your sort of bare root plants now, and again, you'll have great flower this year. So that's a huge advantage. You can still sow seeds of any of these. You just won't get flower in this coming year, or at least you won't get much flower. It's really going to be next year before you see the benefit of the typical perennial types. So they're some of the ones, like, but perennials from bare root plants at this stage of the year is, yeah, hugely beneficial, and a great way of getting a lot of plants. For if you're doing a big border or something like that, it's a great way to get a lot of plants. And watch out as the end of the berry season comes. A lot of particularly the online people, they may not have availability of everything, but they'll certainly be doing kind of 50% off a lot of the different ones at that stage. So yeah, there's great opportunities to get a lot of flower. Then you can still sow a lot of the perennial seeds, as I say, but you won't get necessarily any flower this summer and autumn off them, but they're still well worth doing at this stage. And of course, there's the annuals. And annuals, while certain annuals, I don't think they're the right way to be doing it. So, for example, certain bedding plants, I don't know that it's a great way of going out and buying plants. When you think of the energy and the I suppose the effort, the amount of inputs that goes into producing a really small tray of plants that last for a very small window of time. Not sure whether that makes huge sense, but in terms of sowing seed, you can definitely sow any of those yourself. All you need is windowsill, greenhouse if you have it, and yeah, you'll be able to grow nearly all of those really quickly at this stage of the year once the temperatures start to come up. There's a lot of seeds that you can direct sow as well, the likes of cornflowers and things like that. You can direct sow those into your beds. For me, I'll be sowing the likes of Cosmos, brilliant variety Cosmos last year. Can't remember the name of it at all, but it was a fantastic pink and purple shaded one. The way it grew and the way it ended up, it created kind of a hedge of Cosmos, which was really gorgeous where it was. Trying to find that same variety again. I've looked twice now and haven't seen it, but I'll know it when I see it. I don't remember the name, but I'll know the picture when I see it. So trying to get those. It was a Thompson and Morgan seed, so I'll be keeping my eye out for those. They need to get sown. Have some sown already, but definitely need to get that one if I can, because it was just spectacular. And yeah, then pretty much any of the perennials, as I say, can be got from Bareroots at this stage of the year. But do look out, do keep an eye out for the kind of end of season sales, particularly on the online people. You'll get your 50% off as they try to exit their stock before the window closes. And it's a great time to gather up plants. And once you're able to mind them and keep them watered over the coming months, they'll be perfect. Uh, Getting near the end as well, but like things like bare root roses for the next few weeks as well, there's still an opportunity there to do that. And again, they're going to give you flower this year, maybe not full flower, but you'll get decent flower off those. And of course, you have your wildflower meadows that can be sown in the next couple of weeks as well. And another great way of getting seed into your garden. If it's not a wildflower meadow you're going for, a floral meadow is another option. So floral meadows are cultivated flowers, and that's an option again for sowing over the coming weeks. And it's a great way of flowering up, I suppose, a bigger area really, really quickly. And it's something that will give you flower definitely over the next kind of 5, 6 months. So loads of opportunities for flower at this stage that, for later on in the summer, that even if you haven't anything done at this stage, you can still do this. So that's your summer flowering bulbs, your sowing of seed of certain ones like dahlias. Again, you'll have huge success with them. Get the dahlias sown in the next couple of weeks, pot them up into a slightly bigger pot. So you sow them in a seed tray. You'll move them to a slightly bigger pot, like a 9 centimeter pot. You'll prick them out into that. A couple of weeks later, you'll move them into a slightly bigger pot again. And by the end of sort of mid-May, end of May, they'll be fantastic plants ready to go out into any border, and they will flower very, very well this year. So yeah, great opportunities there. And then obviously your bare root plants, your bare root perennials that are going to be available and are still available in a lot of garden centers and a lot of the online bulb people. So great way of as I say, flowering up spaces over the coming months. Next week's episode is an episode on pruning of fruit trees, so that'll be a really interesting one. Looking forward to that. And yeah, lots of guest interviews coming up over the next few weeks, and we'll have our usual sowing guides, and open gardens are starting to come back in over the next couple of weeks. Try to cover those during the summertime, when the gardens themselves are open. So we'll chat to some of those open garden people in, as I say, over the next couple of months, and bring you ones that are worth catching, worth seeing. So that's been this week's episode. Looking forward to seeing how you get on with all your summer flowers. So get out, get planting, get sowing, and yeah, look forward to the avalanche of color later on in the year. That's been this week's episode. Thanks for listening, and until the next time, happy gardening.